What's up, everybody? You guys all see the screen and hear my voice, blah, 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 blah? Thank you. All right. Did I hold on a second? 1 second. Just so I got something to reference here to go back to. All right. Anyway, in the meantime, this is some of the size. Well, it's kind of off a scanner, but some of the size out there today on the call side. A lot slower day today compared to yesterday. Yesterday was nuts. We had that scramble for any sort of bullish exposure they can find. And today you really could sense it early on. The pace was a lot slower, but as the day went on, we there was some decent action, some quality action out there. We had a couple new names, definitely some names to watch. And they continue to fool around with some of the stuff they've been fooling around with. They played AMD on a couple fades today. Hang on, let me get this. All right, so here are some of the sweepers too. Okay. All right, so basically, um, for anybody who's new on this webinar, we kind of like to go over what we saw in the first 2 days of the week, and then come up with a game plan, a better idea of what to look forward to the rest of the week. We got a holiday week this week. There's definitely going to be some dead spots out there, but I don't want to jinx it. I don't think it's going to be as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. And I think yesterday we saw the reasons why. Now, listen, no matter what, we're going to go, there are going to be times during the day where we're going to see the tumbleweeds crush. But for the most part, similar to today, like today was a deadish day, but you definitely had some action out there. All right. I don't expect every day to be like what we saw yesterday, where sweepers just went bananas. All right. But for a holiday week where a lot of times people are expecting nothing, um, might sneak up on a couple of people. All right. So here's what we were talking about. Saturday was a members only webinar. So we saw a couple things that were taking place. One, hold on, what is this? Let me get this stuff off. Nope. Just to get some of this stuff out of the way. All right. And it'd be a lot easier, especially you guys who are members who didn't stop by Saturday or didn't hear the webinar. You get an idea of what we were looking for and clearer picture of what we're going to keep an eye on ahead here. All right, so obviously markets have been grinding higher, okay? And we sort of were in that choppy grind, especially last week. A lot of fades late in the day, gap ups they were selling into, all right? And it looked like, what a lot of people portray as professional selling, right? They're selling into strength. But what we saw, and we were picking up on some of the indicators we look at, we realized I would say mid to end of the last week, that there was indeed hedge fund selling out there. Okay. So what we were seeing was validated. All right. There was professional selling out there. There were hedge funds that were taking advantage of the gap ups, taking advantage of the strength, selling into late day, late afternoon strength into the bell. Okay. And how can we know that for a fact? There are indicators out there that can measure hedge fund exposure. Okay. So we've been seeing that not just the last couple of days, we've been seeing it in bulk over the course of this whole entire rally. Okay, this whole entire move higher, the recent move higher. All right, and from my experience, and like I said again, this may sound repetitive if you were on the Saturday webinar, but it'll be a good segue into what we're looking for coming days. In my experience, if a market absorbs that professional selling, okay, in other words, you have that late day selling, you have that profit taking, but the market still finds a way to chop around or grind higher, okay, these hedge funds run the risk that on any little piece of good news, okay, where they want to have exposure, bullish exposure again, right? They want or need to be in these names again. They end up having to chase now. Okay? Because think of it logically. Think of it as a professional. What you want to do is you want to sell highs, right? Then you want a pullback, and then you want to buy things back cheaper, right? That would be the best of both worlds. You couldn't draw it up better than that. So you're selling into strength, into this grind, and then you get a pullback, and that would be where you find another entry, okay? But what happens is if the market, okay, forget these 2 days off the gap up Monday, if a market continues to push higher as these hedge funds are liquidating positions and reducing exposure, if you get a market start to creep away from them, all right, if we had the NAFTA news, whatever news it may be, you have something like with this here, a gap up. Anybody who has managed client money knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's not like us who are managing our own accounts. Okay, we could sit here if we don't have any bullish exposure, we could sit here and say, you know what? I sold it to strength, the market's higher. I'm not chasing this. Okay, we have nobody to answer to but ourselves. If you're managing money, you have clients to answer to. Okay? And if you get a market start to run higher and you don't have any exposure when you should have or when everybody else does, it's not as easy as saying, to clients, we're not involved in this rally. All right, AMD is going ballistic here. We have zero exposure to AMD. So, when you're managing money in this business, it's a whole different can of worms. It's a whole different ballgame. All right, so that's what we started to see mid last week into end of last week. Okay, we saw a market hold up rather well, actually grind higher, while hedge funds were continuing to reduce their long exposure. All right, and then you had Monday. So Saturday on the webinar, what we were looking for, and we went over quite in detail, so we were prepared. We were looking for, any signs of them chasing coming out of the flow. And the way we can determine that they're actually chasing is when we see these nonstop aggressive sweepers, one after the other, in the high beta hot names like AMD, the Netflixes of the world, the Apples of the world. All right, those are the ones they have to come after initially. And we saw that Monday right into the gap. Okay, literally Monday right at the open. I don't remember what the, here it is right here where we gapped up higher on SPY. It was an onslaught of call sweeper activity in everything and anything. All right. So to me, again, based on my experience seeing these things, this rally, the risk is almost to the upside now, believe it or not, because this thing can get loose. Now it makes it a little more difficult. Maybe we're in a holiday week. All right. But without a doubt, I think weakness, any intraday weakness, we got to pay attention to, where the money's going, what they're buying, what groups they may be rotating into, because this is a rather unique situation. I'll give you guys an example. In January, we had the same exact thing happen. Okay, and again, those of you who were on the Saturday webinar, we went over the charts and we looked at what exactly happened. You had, this little grind higher while they were selling, and then the market get away and they have to chase. Whether they like it or not, they have to chase. And then all of a sudden, the hedge funds and everybody and their mother have long exposure out to wazoo, and they get caught and whoop. It's happened times in the past too, but you got to understand, a lot of times we see hedge funds, who, by the way, have been as bad as market timers as anybody out there. They've been awful. Okay. We could come up with a gazillion reasons why, but it's a different game, blah, 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 QE. But whatever the reasons, hedge funds have been awful as far as market timing, especially as a whole at extremes. Okay. So what we see a lot of times, we see the hedge funds start selling when the market starts to unravel, in a sense. Okay, and then you reach a bottom. They have no long exposure, right? The retail crowd is all lathered up in protection, and that's where you get that, squeeze off the bottom type thing off a major extreme there. Okay, so what's different in these times, you don't have a pullback. Okay, the market's not pulling back. They're trying to get cute with the market, I guess is the best way to put it. Right? They're trying to time the market, trying to get cute in the market. They're trying to sell into strength, thinking they're going to get that pullback to get in. And when they don't, that's when you get that chase mode. Okay, melt up, whatever you want to call it, Now, at the same time, I don't want to give the impression last year, was an exceptional year. You can't, going forward, we can't compare anything bullish to what we saw last year. All right, you look, if you have the experience, the luxury of experience, you look and, back in the past, and you try to get a gauge, an average on, what has happened. But, last year was a strong rally into that January. So I wouldn't expect something like that, but you could have that melt up situation. All right. And the good thing about that is the flow is there. You know what I mean? You guys heard me complaining about the flow. The flow has been much improved. We're coming, little by little. We have a couple semi names, box today that we care about anyhow as far as earnings. But the big names are done. Okay, so most of the action's clean. Most of the action has been post earnings action. And there's been some legit action out there. There's been some legit. Now, I would say still selective in a sense. As far as the quality out there, there's still, the majority of the quality activity has a good amount of time behind it. All right, we could use more of that spec activity. You guys remember we were talking about that, where they get aggressive in shorter duration, shorter term strikes, that type of thing. But as a whole, the flow has been much improved. Okay. And here's the difference. Here's the other difference. Even though today, like a day like today, we were red hot off yesterday as far as sentiment's concerned. Okay. You hear me talk about short-term sentiment continuously. We were sizzling coming out of yesterday's session. We got lucky today. This little pause cooled off sentiment enough to at least neutralish. Okay. I've seen these melt-ups literally just run through extreme bullish sentiment. And then, the ending is bad. There's no doubt about it. The end of the story usually ends up with an ugly pullback. Okay, the further it goes. But if you get lucky and you get these little pauses, these intraday dips, or even the dips over the course of 1 or 2 days to take advantage of, that could be a blessing. That could be a blessing. All right, so that's kind of, I just wanted to give you guys a picture of what we were coming into the week with an eye on, what we were looking for. That's what we were looking for. Okay, and leading up to that, if you guys remember, I think it was a webinar, it was open to everybody out there, so not just members. We had the first signs of an appetite in anything else out there, like the EEM, the FXI, the ASHR. If you guys remember that one afternoon, I think it was a Friday afternoon, all right, it was off a nonsense headline, and we all figured it was a nonsense headline. But if the flow is there, if they're aggressive, okay, that's where it tells us a different story. And we started to see them get aggressive in the EEM, FXI, like I said, the ASHR, a couple tariff-related names, the casino names. One of the first batch of action off that headline happened to be in casino names. That's how, reliant they become on this China and tariff deal. The ETFs, we were seeing aggressive activity in EFA. You guys probably saw on Twitter me post that a couple times. And like I said, the emerging market stuff today. We saw a sweep in EFA today, by the way, we'll take a peek at. Ridiculous. All right. So you could see they were trying to light the match for a squeeze. Not just a market rally in some of the strong stuff that we would see from time to time. You would really need to get the dead alive to get that runaway strong breath type rally. Okay, that's what I'm trying to talk about here. That's the difference. I'm trying to put a label on it, and I'm probably confusing you guys even more, but that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a rally with some decent breath where even the laggards are starting to bounce. All right, and that's what we're hoping to see here. All right, so that's where we came. That's how we were. That was our playbook coming into this week. All right, so from this point now, like I said, yesterday we got a little too hot sentiment-wise. We were hoping for a little bit of a breather. This was enough, apparently, and now you got to keep a close eye on the action out there now, especially some of the names that maybe haven't moved yet, because there could be some solid opportunities. All right, I'll give you an example. Today, we saw some action come in spots that we've been eyeing these names. I'll give you an example of these casino names. Okay, now I would say gambling names, not just casino. Boyd, BYD. All right, this was a hot stock last year. Ton of action, ton of sweeper activity. This was such a great stock. All right, then eventually normal tops out, and you're going to pull back, and then eventually probably into some consolidation base, the whole shebang. All right, and there's been some rallies here. You can see there's a decent rally here off the lows, then back down. So there's trades in between all of this. But sometimes if you're fortunate enough, if they really come after something, you can get that break, later on in the consolidation. I'm not saying that's the case yet, but the first signs of some pretty aggressive buying today in BYD into some weakness, nice little reversal into green there. Okay. Now, they bought that, and they came in sweeping a basket. That's another extremely bullish sign. They came in to sweep a basket of these names. They swept this, they swept this Penn, which looks just as good. Hello. Oh, you see, similar setup there. Weakness, close strong, close green. Rally, strong name, basing, consolidation, whatever you want to call it. And on top of that, you put the cherry on top, a huge insider buy recently by the CEO. Okay. So you got a lot of you guys know this name. You guys remember this name, Penn, right? We talked many a webinar about this name was brought up. And the other name that got hit with it, I'm not crazy about, but maybe you guys like it. The CZR. I'm not crazy the way it trades. It's slow, it's choppy, and it's been a disaster here. But if you guys were eyeing this name off this pullback, some action there today. They bought that with it. All right, here is the action. Oh, the hell? Okay. The Penn, there was a couple of sweeps, and they were front running a block. That may be on the sweeper. And here she is. Right here. So you got September 34 calls, 95 cents. Okay, September's now. I'm kind of a little, I've had a little, my fill for longer term stuff. No, I want to see some action that we can look for some short term movement, whether you're day trading, swing trading, you can keep your eyes on these names now each and every day. You see some red, maybe they come in sweeping it again. So I'm kind of into this shorter term stuff. I feel more comfortable trading with time on the swing side, right? But it's a lot more fun trading these shorter term things. So you got Penn, September 34 calls, 95 cents. Here's the sweep. There was a block. Oh, I know why. The block went off mid-market. There was a size block that followed that sweep and some smaller action after that. All right, but this is the line, the 34 calls. The other one was the Boyd. Is Boyd on here size-wise? Let me see. Maybe it's on the block. They didn't make this. That goes to show you scanners and all that nonsense. It didn't make it size-wise. Let me go to the room here. And like I said, guys, even you're not sold on these names. You're not crazy about these are names to at least keep an eye on now. These are names that sweepers are given a heads up on could be in play over the next month. Here's the Boyd sweep right here. All right, so you got October 37s, stock 35.79, and like I said, there was smaller flow that tailed it, so there was more to that pile there. All right, and the Caesars catches a lot of action. I don't know. Anybody like this Caesars? Yeah, PNK used to be a name that used to catch a decent amount of action, and they're merging with the Penn. So here's the Caesars here. So they bought September. These were all Septembers. It was the same syndicate, same player, same fund, whatever it is, same outfit was buying. They all came in together holding hands, these orders. They bought the 10 and the halves. How I feel about SGMS. SGMS is my favorite one. SGMS is my favorite one. If you're interested in SGMS for a shorter term trade, you could wait and see if it attracts some sweeper activity. Because honestly, I'd be shocked if they don't come in and hit it, especially with these three catching action late today. But that would be your official confirmation Otherwise, you can play it like a lot of us have already played it, Joey, where I'm in Jan and Jan leaps already. I'm in it already. This just makes me feel better about now the group possibly seeing momentum. You understand? Because I mean, this is no joke. This selling, when these things, I don't know what it is. If it's the machines, I thought it was an Amazon thing because retail. This has become a common theme now. When there's some sort of news out there, or something negative, and you got this heavy, vicious selling underway, these things just don't stop. They cannot find a bid. Look at this thing. This SGMS caused some decent action down here, right? Several of us day traded it 3 or 4 times already. That's how nice of a reaction the stock got off the flow. But because the selling has been so relentless, she still hasn't gone anywhere over the course of the last week. And what that tells me is there are still sellers there. For whatever reason, there are still sellers there. Now, once they clear out, that's when you're going to get this thing rocking and rolling. Okay, but for right now, they're still there. They're still there. We talked about the other casinos. The Wynn, right? It's pretty obvious that there are still a lot of sellers in these things. But without you realizing, what they're going to do is they're going to find a bottom. Okay, it's going to be choppy. It's going to frustrate you. It's going to annoy the daylights out of you. And without you even realizing, start to grind out of that bottom and then get loose. I don't have the answer why it goes on. Campbell Soup was another one like that. Campbell Soup was another one. Down here, it couldn't stay green. It would catch flow. It would catch some size action. As you guys remember, Campbell's caught a lot of size, would rally, and then sellers would just come in and knock the living daylights out of it. Then it broke lows. Look at this. It broke lows, went lower. That's a good week of lower lows. You know what I mean? Lower each and every day until finally, out of nowhere, just the sellers cleared, and it was pretty clean there. Yeah, EA, same camp. And then you got EA. You had the psychopath this weekend too. Yeah, that doesn't help. But that added some chop recently into some of these gamers. They canceled that Madden tournament, some negative headlines. But you're right, EA was like that too. And EA, Steven, as you know, was like that the last go around when she bottomed. I would say even worse. So I don't know what the reason is. The whole retail sector, the whole entire retail sector was like this. Okay? The whole entire one. No exceptions. Every retailer you name was under this relentless selling off the Amazon nonsense. Every single one. And now look where they are. Okay? Look where they are. I remember Macy's catching action, and people in the room would say, oh, I'm done with this Macy's. She can't stay green for 5 seconds. I'm done with this Macy's. Because again, we're all short term. We look at a stock, if she looks good for the first week or two, we're all in. We think she's going to a gazillion. If she looks awful, we want nothing to do with it. But all these names, when they're in the midst of selling like this, it's tough for them to look good. But that's why these guys are buying them, So point is, there are sectors out there, and there's quite a few of them out there. The gambling group is one of them, the casinos, and they're starting to see some consistent action there, and maybe finally forming some sort of bottom and launching pit. Pot stocks, the total opposite. But, listen, that's the difference, right? You want to trade these things, okay? You don't want to be sitting in, well, I can't say that because I don't know, but for the most part, you don't want to be sitting in a decent sized position in Cron with time, not locking in profit, and then the stock go from 13 back down to $2 on you. This is, I gave you guys the example like the Take Two. That's the name to trade, in my opinion, in the gaming sector. All right. And the EA and the ATVI are names to buy weakness on and tuck away nice and easy, longer term. So that's the difference. That's the difference. So these pot names, the same thing. These are spec names now catching flow that have momentum. Obviously, they have momentum. The total opposite of the names we were just going off of. The names we were just going over, they have momentum in the other direction. But don't you want to trade that which is moving? Of course, that's what I'm saying, Ani. I'm saying these are the names you want to trade. I don't want. See, when I'm buying blood, I don't want to buy Cron the way I buy blood. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to chase Cron on the way up and buy Jan calls. That's the total opposite. What I want to do. So for trading, for short-term trading purposes, I want to be where the momentum is, without a doubt. For my swing trades that I'm going out, several months, I'm looking to buy weakness and I'm looking to buy what's out of favor. Does that make sense? Like this is listen, at this point now, this is a chase, right? Let's be honest. Come on now. This is a chase. All right. Sometimes that sweet spot, okay, which is our favorite spot out of flow, that sweet spot where you get quality action buying weakness and that hot growth name that catches sweeper activity when it just starts to get noticed. Like, that's the most ideal situation because you got momentum and you got real buying in it, right? IQ, FDC. All right. But for the most part, you're not going to see that type of size come into a hot momentum name that's already hot because there's no time to buy that much. There's not enough time. The stocks are moving around and is already up 100% over the last month. Well, that's a good question. That's saying if I'm going out, whether it's leaps or with time, okay, I'm looking at from a risk reward basis. Okay, so here's the example. And you guys heard me mention this. This is, for me, if I don't have this figured out before I hit the buy button, I'll be lost in space. All right. EA. Okay. We see some decent size action come into the name. I see it's off a nice pullback, the whole shebang, right? So now there's EA buying size, right? Like real deal buying in January strikes. Okay. So I know that's a decent amount of time. And then there's some smaller spec activity around that Jan size that possibly is looking for some momentum over the extreme short term. Okay. I have to make a decision. Am I going to play off the potential momentum that action may generate in EA? Am I just looking for a trade off of that? Okay. If that's the case, then I'm not going out to Jan. I'm going to go obviously shorter in duration, but I'm going to sell any decent rip I get because it's just a trade, right? I'm just playing off the juice. All right. Or I'm going to make the decision, wow, this is some top shelf activity coming in here off a nice pull. We've been eyeing the group, the sector. I'm looking for more than just a trade here. Okay. I'm going out to January, or like you mentioned, Ded, I'm going out even further. And on a risk reward basis, I'm looking for that bigger hit. EA, and here's the proof. EA, I had a trade in EA. Even my Jan calls, I could have sold for profit. All right. I didn't. Why? Because I already determined, this is something I'm looking for, that bigger hit. I know I got to be patient, and I know I'm going to have to sit through, pullbacks where I'm giving back profit. There's no other way. Unless the stock goes up every single day after I buy it, there's no other way. So for me, it helps me. I got to make that determination before I start buying it. Because I know if I start buying it, and then depending on how I feel, on that particular day when the stock is up, whether I want to hold for more or lock it in, everything is based off emotion. You know what I mean? There's no strategy, there's no game plan, there's no nothing back there. On the fly, I'm just basing everything off emotion. I don't want to do that. So that's the way, and that's how I would recommend you initially look at it. Okay, you're looking to buy SGMS, right? I think you mentioned Leap. Leap's dead. Okay, I would say to myself, listen, I'm doing it right now, so this is what I'm doing. I'm looking to buy, nice and easy. Okay, preferably I get any weakness I'm looking to add, or understand that I might be early. I don't care. That's why I'm going out so far in time. All right. And I'm looking for a decent move out of this on a risk reward basis. I'm looking for a decent move. If this thing snaps back $2, I'm not taking that. I'm not going to lock that in. That would be just a trade. This is a situation, where the action's different, the setup's different. I'm looking for a home run in a sense. I see, for me, it's a little different that because I don't trade the in between much. My day trading, I would be putting into that category. Like a lot of times I won't swing something even though I like the action because I can look to day trade it. I look to day trade it. Like for example, some of these other gambling names. All right, instead of swinging all of them in the SGMS with time, and the others, if Penn, let's say we come in tomorrow, Penn's down 40 cents, and they come aggressively sweeping Penn, I'm gonna buy some Penn. So I guess that quenches my thirst as far as the shorter term stuff. The most part, my positions they have a decent amount of time behind them for the most part. All right. And again, it's all about knowing your personality. If you don't like buying blood, okay, then don't do it. Don't try to do it. Don't try to do it differently. You can't buy blood and say to yourself, all right, I'm looking for a move. I'm buying Jan calls and I'm looking for a move inside 3 days. There's too much luck in that equation. The flow you're not utilizing the edge or flow there. The flow is telling you may be early. So if it's not your cup of tea, then stay away from it. But the reason why it's so alluring, you could see there's some big winners, right? There's some big winners, and they give you an opportunity to build a position in them nice and easy. It's not like you see a sweeper and cron, and then the next day it gaps up and game over. These things sit here nice and easy. You build a position. You're not in a rush. For it's tough to get any size on something like this unless you just fire, if it's at a particular spot right off the sweep. So that's the big difference between them. That's the big difference between them. And for me, I need to have time to make a score. I need to have legitimate time. Otherwise, I'm just, I'm kidding myself. Yeah, I could get lucky, but I'm trying not to rely on luck as much as possible. I know I need time. Anybody will tell you it. Ask anybody. You could go back to, Livermore quotes from the Stone Age. You get paid. The way you get paid in this game is by sitting, right? Sitting in something. That's where you want to make the big money. You want the big returns. But again, that may not be for you. If you're more comfortable trading, then you're more comfortable trading, but you can't pretend to do both. That's what I'm trying to say. I see it all the time. You know what I mean? I see it all the time. I see somebody will buy SGMS, and then the stock's down the next day 50 cents, and they're cursing it out. They're cursing it out already the next day. You could see they're frustrated. You could see they're pissed off. I don't know why. It was pretty clear cut what the actual play is. You're going to need time. St. Joe saying, when you're entering a longer term swing trade, do you care that the overall market is? That's a great question. I do. But you know what, Joe, has been different? Okay, usually, yes, it's very important. I usually like to get aggressive in my swing account when we're coming off a pullback or, correction. You know what I mean? That's when I love to get most aggressive in my swing account. Okay, and as a market get extended, I'll concentrate more on the shorter term trading, the day trading. You know what I mean? I don't want to get caught per se. But what's different here, I guess, in this market right now, you look at the market and you say, wow, this market's hot as it. Look at this market. All right, but look at what we're talking about here. Does that look anything like the indices? That's the difference. This market, this is a strange market. You got a lot of legitimate groups underneath the hood that have been smacked, that basically have been in the bear market, Joe. Because you bring up a great point. With a SPY chart looking like this, okay, normally I wouldn't have any swings on now. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't have any with a SPY chart looking like this. But if you look at the names I'm in, they're all off pulls. Like I'm in EA, I'm in SGMS. Look at these charts. The total opposite. So, but you do raise a good point. I want to be most aggressive. Look, this is okay. In normal markets, you usually get corrections like this, okay, pullbacks like this, and often, by the way, okay, they were normal. And then what I want to do is I want to be most aggressive on my swing positions when we come out of here. The first batch of action that comes out off this correction. Okay, and as a market continues to push like we have, that's why Joe's probably asking, here's where I want to start to get lighter in that swing account. Hey, that's my game plan as a whole. But like I just showed you guys the example, this is a strange market. The SPY looks like this. I think 3/4 of the market looks nothing like this. You guys disagree or no? You know, like you see FANG and you had this correction in FANG. Like that money coming out of FANG, if it decides to go into stuff that's been out of favor while everybody was just buying FANG, now there's a lot of setups out there that have already been wrecked, already have been sold to death, you know, trying to find a bottom. So again, that may lead to what we may see as far as a melt up in this market. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe a shift of money from the stuff they've been buying for 2 straight years to stuff that they've been ignoring, possibly. You know, even the banks, right? Even the banks. Like look at Citigroup. Okay, Citigroup's been catching some decent action. Does this look euphoric to you? Right? Yeah, you're coming off a legitimate pull here. You know, SPY looks like this, basically. You know, this had a legitimate correction. So the constant rotation out there makes it a bit deceiving, is what I was trying to get at, Joe. But you raise a good point. The most aggressive I want to be is off pullbacks, without a doubt. Make sense? I mean, do you look at it differently? I'm not a big, basically I do the opposite. I'm not a breakout guy, if that's what you were asking, you know? I'm not looking to be most aggressive over here because the market's breaking out. That's not my game. Down here, even if I'm early with time, that's where I want to be most aggressive. But that's a great question, especially now in this market. It's a crazy game right now. Crazy game. You know. All right, so let's see some momentum plays. There was a couple of energy names today that saw some half decent spec action. APC, they were buying weakness today, and she had a nice bounce. Let's see. This is a 5-minute. This is APC, and NBL is the other one. You know, little drifts and drafts and some of the other energy stuff, but that was pretty much the most aggressive spec action. NBL and APC. We had the gaming stocks, the gambling stocks, which I spoke about. What else did we see today? Let me look at this list. Oh, there was one interesting thing too. Hold on. Where's that symbol? Do I have it here? Log me in. Anybody know that name? I don't know what the hell they're doing with that. Log me in. But interesting combo there. Hold on. Here's that. All right, so the story here is there was some buying into this blood off earnings. Right into this blood. Yeah, bounce, came back down, did nothing. I think it was October's, if I remember correctly. Today into strength, you had a player out there selling puts to buy calls. September's. Which you don't see often unless one, there's earnings, or two, it's some sort of stock replacement strategy, but usually into an event. Okay, so earnings are out of the way. Is it really? This is log me in right now? I know everybody's saying log me in. Maybe they'll give us some inside information. But a really, really strange bet today. If this thing wasn't up to I probably would have bought a little today. We're going to watch it for some weakness tomorrow and maybe take a stab at it. I would rather it have more time behind it than just September, but that's what makes it kind of peculiar that somebody selling September puts and buying calls with the proceeds without a catalyst that we know about. I like that though, right? I'd rather not know the catalyst. When we know the catalyst, it's usually immaterial, or it's usually we're rolling the dice. So sneaky. I remember the sneaky action, the clever action we used to talk about. We had a long break there for it. So, did you guys see that? This is that symbol TRI today. So yesterday and this morning, you had some unusual sweeper accumulation in this TRI, and then she halted and caught news. So that's the spec action I like. You got momentum action, right? Playing off the momentum, like the weed stocks, AMD, all that stuff. And then you got, the clever sneaky action, which I like. I like that clever sneaky action. So keep an eye on that. I keep forgetting the symbol. Lomain. Log me in. Keep an eye on that name. All right. SGMO, not sneaky, but interesting. It's a biotech, right? I don't know if they have any data due on it or anything. You probably know better than I do. But there's definitely been some buying here. Do they have anything coming out? September 5th. All right. So that's what they're playing then. That's what they're playing. See, you got a known catalyst there. And listen, maybe, the player buying it, obviously he knows more about the name than we do, than most of us do. So you can look at that as an edge. But the guys who really have something up their sleeve is when you can't find that catalyst and they're buying the living daylights out of it. Like for example, okay, this TRI, just to give you an example of the mindset and what I'm looking for, these sneaky things. Why is anybody sweeping? And it's got to be a real pain in the ass in a name like this, excuse my French. Why would anybody be sweeping TRI? Right? So I look, I'm like, this has got to be an earnings play. I look, they had earnings. They can't be playing momentum off Thomson Reuters. There's other stuff out there, easier trades to get a momentum play off of. So he had something, he thought maybe whether he was banking on some chatter or anything like that, he had something up his sleeve. And whatever it was came out, the very next day. So these are really, really cool plays. You don't get as many as you would like, You don't get as many as you would like. And the problem is when you get them, they're a lot of times illiquid names. That's why they're sneaky, right? It's tough to be sneaky in Baba or Facebook. There's call buyers every 3 seconds. So that's the pros and cons. Like I remember the CLH. Look at that. She's still going. Somebody sweeping the CLH. What? Look at this. Anyway, yeah, the underbelly names, though, like my definition of underbelly names are not, not your big leaders, but your high growth names, that type of stuff. And that could be just a play on momentum on it, play on the sector, play on the group. Doesn't all have to be sneaky. But you could tell when someone's being sneaky. They're going out of their way. They're keeping it small. They keep poking at it. You can see the aggressiveness there. Like I said, the worst part of it is it doesn't come around as much as you would like, because they're a lot of fun and extremely rewarding. The momentum plays, what I would just stress is you got to avoid the chase. That's the main thing with the momentum stuff. You got to avoid the chase. If you can buy red, you're ahead of the game. If you can buy when the first action starts to heat up. But a lot of those momentum names, what happens is you see action in it, you don't really pay much attention. Then they start to move, they see more action. Now you're interested, and now you're chasing some of that move. That's the problem. That's the problem. So, but yeah, we're seeing momentum action all over the place. Microsoft yesterday before the bell got sprayed with call sweepers. I think they were weeklies. Some guys in the room had it. They flipped it the next morning. That's what you're looking to do off momentum, especially off a move. This is not new action in Microsoft. Micron, by the way, I know a lot of you guys ask and follow Micron. Micron caught some heavy duty sweeper activity yesterday. Whether it's our boy Tepper or not, it's tough to tell because you got earnings kind of in the mix. But they were Tepper-like, without a doubt, and MU. Like most, though, you got a little bit of a chase here. So you got to be willing to do that if you think there's enough upside before earnings. Oh, you know what else caught an unbelievable looking bet today? And Ani, I've been complaining to you about this name for the past 2 straight months. Another good looking sweeper in this Roku. Man. Yeah, listen, I miss a lot. This one bothers me just because this was real action in this thing. You had earnings right in your way there. You guys remember we were talking about it. They bought off this pullback. You remember that whole story, okay? So same thing like we're going over some of the names out of favor. Out of favor caught legitimate action, couldn't really catch a bid, if you remember initially. Couldn't really catch a bid. They had time, start to gain momentum, and then she's gone. Then what happens? Dip. What do? They hammer the dip. Highs. Another dip. What do? Hammer the dip, and you got earnings right here. Right in your way. But the action in Roku from this bottom to where we are now has been incredible. The order today with time, by the way, look at this order in Roku. That's not it. Oh, it didn't even, wow. So it was even better than I thought. Hold on. Oh, I'll show you the Micron. I'm sure you guys seen them, but I'll show you the Micron sweeps too quick. Look at this bad boy. What Roku you're saying could go kaboom from here? Yeah, that wouldn't shock me. I'll show you a name, Ani, that caught, pretty much similar activity that I didn't want to chase forever now, and it's a cash register. But here's the Roku. Opening order, sweep April 60s. Look at the wood. Real deal bet. And this is what these Roku sweepers have looked like. Not out of the money, 25-cent lottos. They all laid wood, all of them. Let me see. If I scroll back, I can find a couple on here. May. Is that when they started buying it? May? Must have been like this. May 3rd. Yeah, I think that could be it. Yep, that's it. May they started buying it. Would you say out of the money leaps are more important or not? No, Joey, you know why? Because what this tells me, this bet today tells me there's still real money, real players looking to be in this thing. If we saw that out of the money spec action, that's good for the day, maybe the next day momentum wise, but more likely these are just sweepers that are rolling up and playing with profits. You know what I mean? So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for momentum right now, then what you're talking about, those out of the money lottos, and they keep getting swept, they're more, you probably want to see those because they're going to create momentum over the shorter term. But if you're in Roku, if you got a decent sized position and you want to be in it, you love to see stuff like this. Like I said, this is the type of stuff, this is the type of order flow Roku was catching in May that really caught my eye. It wasn't the spec action, it was real buying, which was strange because if you remember back then, like Roku, Netflix was supposed to put them out of business. That was, oh, you're saying now Roku. Yeah, Roku, I see, down 99 cents after. Roku dips on report of Amazon plans. See what I mean? They're doing it again. That was the news back in May, Ani, when they hammered this thing. And they were buying it. But yeah, look at this thing. I mean, listen, right now, like if you're looking to play Roku, and trade it now, then I would look more for the action that you mentioned off any, let's say tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, let's say it opens down a buck. You see some September activity, October activity come in, and that's your trade setup. But you got to understand that's a trade. You can't expect to see a move like this from an entry up here in Roku off that stuff. That's my point. Here's another one. Square. Nobody even makes a peep about this stock. Nobody talks about Square. Look at this thing. Nobody talks about this Square. They sweep every dip. They're sweepers every day. We ignore them every day because this thing is overstretched and she just continues to go higher. Every day. Every single day. I don't understand. It doesn't pull back. It doesn't pull back. So that caught some opening sweeper activity again today. SQ caught a couple orders. What else? Momentum wise, Apple again. If this market's in that melt up, we're gonna see Apple flow every day. Every day. That's good. That's one name. Like I was giving you the example, the managed money, they got to show certain names in their book no matter what. Here's the perfect example. They cannot tell clients they don't have a load of Apple. It's you're not going to have any clients left. I know when I was a broker, okay, if I tell my client right now, let's say right now I'm a broker, ding, 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 the bell closes, my client will call me up and ask me how much Apple does he have. No, we haven't seen any more of that VIX 50 cent cat. The last time we saw them was right before that little tiny pullback we had in the markets. But they're targeting the fall. I think it was. I think it was September-ish, right? October. But we haven't seen any more. No, we haven't seen any more. We haven't seen any more of the size VXX, UVXY guys. We saw a little put action, but the small stuff. Small stuff. And listen, I'm no forecaster, you know that, but if this is the start of a melt up, it's going to end badly, it's going to end something like this. So we just want to be able to milk this, ride this out. You understand what I'm saying? Take advantage of it, and the longer it stretches, if it stretches without a pullback, we gotta be careful. But here's the most promising thing. The most promising thing is the market looks like this, and like I showed you earlier, you have a chunk of the market that looks nothing like this. Nothing like this. So I would just be careful in the hot stuff. You know what I mean? What other names? Anybody else before we wrap it up? See any action? Oh, yeah. We saw some flow in that. VKTX yesterday and today. Biotech, right? Little sweeps. I remember when they hit it before the explosion here. That's why I pay attention to it now. Let me see. Let me find you what they were buying here. Prior to that, they were buying Jans. This is what they bought today. October 12 and a halves. Opening sweep. And they paid $1.35. And yesterday, oh, that's not the flow. Here's yesterday. September 12 and a halves, those open. And then November 15s. Oh, EFA. You guys want to see a bet? Look at this thing. Look at this animal. So this guy sweeps. I think it was 25,000 when it's all said and done. November 68. That's another thing, by the way. Whoever had that great question about where the market is, if that has anything to do with like swing positions, look at Europe, look at Asia, look at these markets. You got crashes in some of these spots, right? You don't have this raging bull market worldwide like we had in January. You got markets that have already taken a bath. You look at Europe, every single European market is at extreme bearish sentiment. Not bullish, extreme bearish sentiment. EEM, FXI, the emerging markets, the Asian markets, prior to this little rally, if you guys remember when we saw the action that Friday, the reason why we were excited about it, why? Because of the squeeze off extreme bearish sentiment. Brazil, what a bloodbath. Trumponomics, probably. But you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So that's why, like, normally, and that's why you guys, normally, you see a chart like this, and you're going to hear caution out of me, okay? But what I'm trying to tell you is, I think you have to be cautious in certain spots here. If you see flow where there's already been blood, you can't be scared to look there. You can't be scared to look there. Because I got to believe, even if they come out of whatever's holding this market up here, they're going to go find value in some of these spots. They've been mangled. Here's the EFA chart. By the way, let me show you, just in case you couldn't do the math there. Just in case you didn't have a calculator. That's a bazooka. No, that is a bazooka. Now, granted, it's an ETF. All right. It's not like a name catching that size, but that's a big sweep. That's a big sweep. And a couple things to keep in mind. Here's what the EFA. So basically, what that bet's telling me, my interpretation of that bet, they're jumping the breakout. Okay, they're jumping this double bottom breakout here for you technicians out there. They're jumping it. They went out to November, they got time, and they're jumping it. Now, normally you don't get that break. Normally you don't get that break initially, right? You get a pump fake where this thing goes lower, people think it's resistance, and then you break it. So I would keep an eye on that. And the other thing is, this is not initial activity, quote unquote, if you can believe that, because they hit this EFA aggressively, as some of you members know, we were talking about. I gotta scroll all the way up here. They hit this EFA aggressively on 813 or 812. That's 812. Anyway, right around there. Mid-August. Look at all these. See all these? See these sweeps? Size, blocks, sweeps. This is all one day. All right, so this, again, this came before the EEM, the FXI, before that action, the ASHR. They hit, EFA was the first one they hit. PBR, there was some action. And PBR is a name that always catches action. So you want to see some size action. There was, let me see, I think before earnings, there was some size. Yesterday, December's, you know what I mean? PBR could catch a lot of action. Well, you looking to make a play on Brazil, Martin? Or you just like the name off the dip? There's definitely some bullish activity there. There's some bullish activity. Yeah, financials. Yeah, Martin, here's some of the recent flow here. December 11th, November 12th. That's a small bet. This was a big block. That was what they 823. I think that was right before earnings. December's. So it looks like they're targeting the end of the year there, Martin, if you're looking for a strike to target. This dollar has pulled back for a few days. Would that mess with EEM? Yeah, that would be. What do you mean? You're saying it would be bad? The dollar's been running like a banshee here throughout this whole crash. You know what I mean? The dollar rally while this market was tubing. So, let's see. We already, all right. They squeezed it off the lows, extreme bearish sentiment. Like I said, what I would look for is, are these things to find possibly some resistance here? And trust me, when they find resistance, the news is going to look awful. You're not going to want to look at these things, but that's when you got to see if flow comes into them. You understand? Now they're easier to look at, right? They've been rallying, they're green, they look like they're alive. If they bump their heads, well, it did today, kind of. I don't know. I'm not a technician, but if you draw the line proper, it kind of bumped its head, you know what I mean, off resistance. If this thing comes down here, hangs around here, and they get aggressive, like I showed you they did back in mid-August here. Look where, Abby, did you see where that flow I showed you in EFA? Did you see where they got most aggressive? Right here. Right into this bloodbath. So I'm not saying test the lows again. It could be possible, but maybe hang around here, showing that it can't bust through. And then I think you got a little time, though. I think I could be 100% wrong, but that's my gut. Yeah, the banks have been seeing flow. Citigroup, the best of the flow. It's for some reason they always rotate banks. Bank of America usually takes the crown. I would say more than not. If you remember last year, Wells Fargo off the lows was catching the best action. J.P. Morgan sometimes will catch the best action. They always catch action, but Citigroup has saw the better order flow of recent. Maybe because it's been a bit of a laggard compared to some of the others. I don't know. But there's flow in all of them. Morgan Stanley has seen a little flow that's been lagging a bit. Even Goldman has been seeing flow. By the way, Goldman, a little bit of life there. Yeah, listen, SGMS, and I feel good about it because I have time. What I wanted to see is I wanted to see the real buyers show up, okay, and convince me that they still believe in this name. You know what I mean? And they did that. Okay, so now I don't want to wrap my head up in storylines and there's a big short. I know there's a ton of selling, which probably means there's been a ton of shorting in this name. When the sky's clear, this thing should start looking a lot healthier. Maybe there's more downside. Like I said, when I buy Jans and Leaps especially, the chart usually looks like this, so I'm okay with it. I'm okay if there's more downside. It's not a trade. But once the selling dries up, all it takes, you see how quick it happens when they work out. You see how quick. You blink sometimes if you looked in the wrong direction, and these things all of a sudden put together a healthy move. The PayPal, if you remember, off the Amazon news when they bought that thing looked like it was rolling over to death. So the key is you don't want the noise over the short term. You don't want to be distracted by. That's a Qualcomm. I didn't even day trade it today, Abby. Don't ask me why, but it caught a ton of action today. Qualcomm could catch size, so it takes a little more convincing for me. But yeah, there was size flying around Qualcomm today. Celgene was cheap crap, to be honest. Celgene was all cheap, out of the money stuff, weeklies and stuff. Qualcomm had some big action. Oh, Walmart, I forgot to mention. I traded Walmart today. Yeah, nothing. Had multiple sweepers in some weeklies, and there was some October activity out there. Circle on the chart. Oh, that's just reversal. selling selling exhaustion. Was a nice alert, first alert of the day in Walmart. Yeah, yeah. The first couple of sweeps there, Z, a couple of us traded it. MJ traded it. I traded it. Brown traded it. We got a nice day trade out of it. And yeah, the reason Walmart was seeing a little nibbling prior to that, but I just like this little, you know what I mean, this little breather here, and then they come in and you get maybe a potential bust out. It's worth keeping an eye on from here too. Tomorrow you got a little weakness and sweepers show up again. They might be for real for a bigger move, for a bigger move. So it's worth keeping an eye on into red. If it's up a buck, it's a different story. You don't want to start looking at it when it's up a buck. I mean, from 95. Nice. So you got a buck cushion. You got a buck cushion there. What else? I mentioned the energy names to you. CRC, that was recently, not today, but some of the better energy flow. And that's it. Like I said, guys, the flow, I was miserable probably the last several webinars we've been on with earnings and the summer and just no real buying out there. There's some buying out there. And I think we can. You want to be aggressive as far as tactical trading is concerned. You know what I mean? You don't want to be too gun shy, but at the same time, you want to be prudent. You want to be prudent about it. But there are some indications that this thing can continue to melt up, maybe get a little frisky going into September. What happens after that? The gods only know. Our sentiment cooled off nicely today. I'll be back to neutral, I think. That's where I saw it around 3 o'clock-ish. So even though we didn't have any real weakness today, the fade cooled off some of that sentiment. I try to put it the best way. I know it can be confusing. My best advice I could give you to where we're at now, as far as the environment and sentiment, you want to stay nimble in the momentum, the hot stuff right now. Okay. So like I said, you don't want to chase a move. I'm just giving it. I don't know why this keeps popping in my head, but just because of the move, you don't want to start getting aggressive in cron up here. Okay, these things are hot. But there's a whole other side of the market, like we've been talking about, SGMS, some of those names that caught action today, that you could be a little more aggressive in if we see flow. All right, so when you see hot sentiment, unfortunately right now you can't put a blanket over the whole entire market. It's, you know what I mean? If you see the squeezometer hot, put the call hot, the sentiment stuff we look at hot, look at the hot growth names that are moving right now, and that's what's hot. Like you had, look, Netflix, right? I mean, you had a big ramp there. So I'm saying you got to be prudent about it. You don't want to start sizing into Netflix here. At least I wouldn't. If you're looking for Netflix now from this point, you want to see some consolidation or a breather. And then if you're looking for, towards the flow, some sweeper activity start to stem up again, into some consolidation or weakness. But, there's the momentum names. Trust me, I get it. They're worth playing if you can be tactical, right? They're worth playing. This name, SFIX, looks beautiful. Look at it. Looks beautiful. Here's one more name. I just saw it on my screen. You guys could keep an eye on. She hasn't done a thing yet. Cuervo. Stuck, but she's caught some decent order flow. QRVO. looks totally normal. You had a big ramp off this low here, pretty much just sideways chop. The difference is here we're seeing activity. So that's the logic, okay? We don't know how long this chop, right, can go on for. We don't know if it's going to break up or down. The sweepers put the odds in our favor that there will be a break higher than lower. That's what sweepers do. They're not a crystal ball. They don't predict the future. They tilt the odds instead of 50-50. If I do that, instead of 50-50 that this thing goes higher or lower out of this consolidation, because there's sweeper activity, it's 60-40 now. That edge right there is what allows you to make money in this game. Yeah, VKTX, I don't know if you heard, Ani, I just spoke about it. Definitely some action there. Definitely some action in that VKTX. Yeah, nothing huge, but definitely some action. All right. What else I got on this thing here? Anything else interesting? That's it. Baba. I'm surprised I didn't get any questions on Baba. That might be a tell. But Baba caught a couple decent sweeps down here. Had a nice day yesterday. Gave back $2 of that today. VKTX FDA catalyst phase 2, the end of September. Thank you, Martin. You hear that, Ani? VKTX FDA catalyst, the end of September. Maybe you'll get a run-up on it prior. But any of you Baba fans, you got some decent action there post-earnings and a dip today. There was one nice sweep we were talking about on the Saturday webinar. That was Friday. And then yesterday caught a sweep. I think it was Jan's. I don't remember. But some decent action. PV, that's a momentum name. That looks good, no? Are you in that, Dharmesh? She's grinding higher. Honestly, Dharmesh, she'll probably, you see this here, earnings? She'll probably grind up until earnings. Will they pay you in a big way before that? I don't know. But more than likely, she'll grind until earnings. And you're going to have to, so leaps, then you're holding through earnings. So then what are you worried about? This thing could be doing nothing right now for all you care. It's all about earnings. This is what they did last quarter, Dharmesh. Me personally, like you see this move here, I would lock some of that in and leave a piece through earnings. You have some of the profits paying for it. You know what I mean? Because you're rolling the dice. And then if you get weakness off earnings, then you can start buying leaps again. But that's my personal opinion. Vinny, Teva, let me tell you something about this Teva. This Teva from literally last year, let me pull up a daily here. Is this the daily? Yeah. You see these right here. Oh, what am I doing? God damn chart. Hold on. All right. Teva started to catch aggressive activity literally right into these November lows. I remember like it was yesterday. It was around the holidays. Okay. It's honestly been nonstop, even through this little correction here, consolidation, nonstop. And they buy dips. You see it every day. They bought a little today, this morning. They bought a little off this pullback. You had a run up. They're buying this pullback. Really consistent action. Really consistent. So, the ideal situation, you rather buy it at the lower end of this range. I wouldn't chase these highs up here like this. You know what I mean? You sold your DWDP calls. You made money. Oh, for a gain. Nice. Yeah, Dharmesh, that honestly, maybe that didn't even get started yet. Maybe you can get back in it if you get a little breather, you know? But that was a nice move. It looks like they're going for the break there too. They're going for the break of out of this consolidation. Here's another one, guys. You know, in comparison to the market, yeah, like this DWDP was catching action down here, tangled in consolidation. This looks nothing like SPY or the Qs. You know what I mean? This is a nice setup, in my opinion. I don't feel like I'm chasing DWDP down here. So it's a weird market. It's weird. Jonathan talking about Tesla. What? There was a put sweeper? Oh, call sweeper. Yeah, it was tiny. It was pretty small. It was pretty small that Tesla, if you're gonna pay attention to the small sweeps, you know, outside of day trading them, you want to see several of them. Otherwise, like you mentioned, could be just protection against a short, against a long, against anything. You know, you want to see several of them. Yeah, Dormesh, DWDP is slow, but if she gets moving, you get paid on these calls because there's no juice. You know, I remember the last time DWDP caught flow like this was out of this consolidation, and this move you made a lot of money off of. So that's the beauty of it, you know, if you hit them right. That's why I like this setup. You know, some don't work out, but if they do work, there's no juice on those calls. Nobody wants them. You know, nobody wants them. All right, guys, let me run out of here. I'm starving. I didn't eat a damn thing all day. Got to eat some dinner. All right. So, like I said, you know, be careful into green on some of the hotter stuff out there. But, you know, if we continue to see flow start to rotate into the stuff that's been dead, I think that bodes well. I think that bodes well here for a continuation. And, you know, these hedge funds, they're going to have to put money to work, whether they like it or not. That's all bullish to me. So if it all works out right, could be a nice little setup. We'll see what happens. All right. Good luck the rest of the way. If I don't speak to you guys, enjoy the holiday weekend and stay safe, okay? Be good, everybody.